Harvard changed my life, but it's not in the way you might think. I walked in expecting elite academics, once-in-a-lifetime opportunities, and a guaranteed path to success. But what I actually learned were things that were completely different. And to be honest, they're far more valuable than anything I could have imagined. In this video, I'm going to be sharing the 7 biggest lessons I've learned while studying at Harvard, and they're lessons that will change the way you think about success, money, and what truly matters in life. If you're someone who wants to get ahead, avoid the mistakes I made, and make the most of your time in college, then stick around, because these insights might just save you years of wasted effort. For those of you who are new here, my name's Jack Anderson, and I'm currently completing my master's at Harvard on a full ride scholarship. Okay, let's dive in with life-changing lesson number 1, which is you don't need a Harvard degree to change the world. Before getting into Harvard, I used to believe that this was a utopia for geniuses, where students could solve any math problem in their head, and they were all destined to become world leaders. And while yes, there are some brilliant people here, I've also quickly realized something that completely surprised me, which is most people here at Harvard are just normal people. I hate to break it to you, but they're not superhuman, they don't have IQs of 180, but what they do have is a complete obsession for solving problems. They believe in their big ideas, and most importantly, they believe in themselves. And that's when it hit me. The key to making an impact or being successful in life isn't always about being the smartest person in the room. It's about believing that you can do the big things and having the courage to actually start. Harvard really helped me to remove all the imposter syndrome that I was feeling and self-doubt, because it allowed me to realize that even at a place like Harvard, where they are literally selecting the cream of the crop, there is really nothing special about a lot of these students, except that the fact that they believe in themselves, they don't wait for permission, and they work extremely hard. So if you've ever had that thought, I can't do X because I don't go to a top school, please just drop that self-limiting belief right now. Your world is limitless, and it comes down to what you believe is possible for yourself. Lesson number 2 is when it comes to business, the secret to success is living and breathing your customers. One of the biggest takeaways I've had from my entrepreneurship classes at Harvard is if you want to build something great, you need to obsess over your customers, not the idea that you currently have. One of my professors, David Docterman, said something that completely changed my mindset, which is if you fall in love with the problem, you're looking for solutions. If you fall in love with your solution, you stick with it and try to convince people that you're right. And that's the mistake that almost every person going into business or social impact makes. Think about it. How often do people come up with an idea, pour months or years into it, only to realize that no one actually wants it? That's because they started with the solutions first instead of identifying and understanding the problem. If you want to build something impactful, whether it's a product, a startup, or a non-for-profit, stop focusing on the solution that you love and have already created, and start focusing on who you're serving. Talk to real people, understand their struggles and pain points, and develop a prototype that's going to address the key pain points that you discover, and then adapt it relentlessly based on feedback. And that, in my opinion, is the difference between a failure and success. Lesson number 3, you don't have as much time as you think. Here's one of the biggest lies we always tell ourselves. I'll do it later. But here's the truth. The longer you wait, the harder it gets. In college, people and society at large give you a grace period. You can experiment, take risks, and fail without any major consequences. But once you graduate, the world expects you to start getting your life together real quick. So if you have a big idea, start working on it right now. Because once you graduate, you're gonna feel pressure from your parents, from society, and even from yourself, just self-imposed expectations to follow the quote-unquote safe path. I've personally met so many students obsessing over grades in college instead of using this time as a launch pad to build something meaningful that they love. And I get it, it's so easy to get caught up in schoolwork and pretend like you're super busy. But at the end of the day, you don't get rewarded for doing well on your assignments. You get rewarded for how well you use your time. So ask yourself, like realistically when you're in college or even in high school, are you building the life you want, or just checking off academic and professional boxes? And this actually leads me into lesson number 4, which is gonna surprise you, which is there is nothing wrong with a corporate job. In the last decade, everyone has been pushing the entrepreneurship dream. You know, be your own boss, escape the 9-to-5, and build that company. And whilst that's great for some, it's really not the only path to success. I have friends who hate their 9-to-5 jobs, but have a life that many entrepreneurs can only dream of. They earn high salaries, travel the world, have time to work out, enjoy the weekends with their friends and family, and aren't constantly stressed out about where their next paycheck is coming from. Meanwhile, I know entrepreneurs who are completely miserable, stuck working 80-hour work weeks, constantly battling uncertainty, and pouring everything into a business that might not even succeed. So here's what I'm getting at with all of this. There is no shame in choosing stability. If you love building things, if you thrive under pressure, and you're willing to sacrifice comfort for the long-term upside, then entrepreneurship might be for you. But if you value work-life balance, financial security, and way less stress, a well-paying corporate job is perfectly valid and a fulfilling choice. So if you end up going down the corporate path, don't be disheartened, just focus on having great balance, keeping your expenses low, and building your equity portfolio as quickly as possible so that you can retire by the time you're 40. Lesson number 5 is perspective is everything. There were moments at Harvard where I felt completely overwhelmed, stressed, and frustrated. I'd get caught up in the pressure, comparing myself to others all the time, worrying about grades, and constantly pushing myself for that next big achievement. And then, as of recent, I remembered a great quote that I heard when I was 18 years old, which is, there are millions of people sitting in hospital beds right now praying for the opportunity that you have right now. People would literally give everything they have materially to be in your position, just to be able to wake up in the morning, walk around campus, and do the things that you love. And yet, here at Harvard, I find myself being stressed about the grades on my assignments. And that realization, that remembering that quote has completely changed my perspective. It's so easy to get caught up in the little things, to stress over deadlines, overthink minor failures, and let small problems in our lives take up massive space. But in the grand scheme of things, none of it matters. If you have your health, a roof over your head, and people who care about you, you're already doing better than so many people in this world. So now, whenever I catch myself spiraling, stressing, or just worrying about the most pointless stuff, I remind myself, I'm lucky to be here, I'm lucky to have my health, and I'm lucky to have this opportunity, and I refuse to waste this time at Harvard being miserable. Lesson number 6 is a big one, which is studying inefficiently is the biggest waste of your time. When I was younger, I thought that spending more time studying was automatically going to mean that I was being productive. I'd pull all-nighters, sit in the library for days on end, and convince myself that working longer was working smarter. I was so wrong, and looking back on it now, I realize how much time I wasted studying inefficiently as hell. I would spend literally weeks obsessing over getting a perfect grade on assignments that, in the long run, mean absolutely nothing. And the worst part is, that time I spent studying, I could have spent doing things that actually mattered to me. You see, as a student, you think it's your job just to study all day, every day, because that's what you're supposed to be good at. But the older you get, the harder it becomes to do the things you actually love. Once you graduate, you have responsibilities. You have bills to pay, you have less freedom to take risks and explore new things. So when you're in college, don't just pour all your time into studying. Learn to study effectively. Focus on understanding concepts and not memorizing for exams. Set limits for your work and then go live your life. Because trust me, 5 years from now, no one will care about your 4.0 GPA. What will matter is how you spent your time and what you built for yourself. I just want to preface that by saying don't go off the rails and just get like a 2.0 GPA. Keep it decent, but don't obsessively go for the highest marks every single time. Okay, and lesson number 7 is a tough one, which is money matters a lot more than people want to admit. People always say, follow your passion and the money will come. But here's the harsh truth. Passion doesn't pay the bills a lot of the time. Over the past decade, we've seen a huge movement of people preaching, do what you love and everything else will work out. And whilst that's a nice sentiment, it isn't always realistic. Because here's what happens when you follow your passion without a financial plan. And I've realized this personally. You struggle to make money, first one, then you get stressed about money, and then the thing you love becomes your biggest source of pain because you have no money. I'm not saying to ignore your passions. I mean, I'm someone who loves to follow every passion that I have. But instead of blindly chasing them, ask yourself, what am I good at and how can I turn it into something that is valuable to this economy? If you can find a skill that's both valuable and enjoyable, you'll be way better off than someone who blindly follows their passion with no clear financial path forward. Because at the end of the day, having financial stability gives you freedom. The freedom to explore your interests, the freedom to take risks, the freedom to travel, the freedom to enjoy your life without constantly worrying about where your next paycheck is coming from or how much something costs. So before you go all into chasing your passion, please make sure that you're thinking long term. And my advice would be to see if you can make your passion project work or your passion work by only putting in an hour or 2 a day so that you can financially support yourself in the meantime whilst you try and get that thing off the ground. So those are the 7 biggest lessons I've learned while studying at Harvard. lessons that have completely changed the way I think about success, happiness, and life. So as a recap on what those 7 lessons were, lesson number 1 is you don't need a Harvard degree to change the world. Lesson 2 is to build something great, you have to obsess over the problem and your customers. Lesson 3 is you don't have as much time as you think. Lesson 4 is there's nothing wrong with a corporate job. Lesson 5 is perspective is everything. Lesson 6 is studying inefficiently is the biggest waste of your time. And lesson number 7 is money matters. At the end of the day, college is what you make of it. You can spend 4 years grinding for perfect grades, or you can spend 4 years building a life that actually excites you. The choice is yours. And please go out there and chase your best life. Good luck.